Ethan Cole had learned one important lesson after 8 years of hauling cargo through the forgotten edges of known space. Never answer a distress signal from a dead system. Dead systems were dead for a reason. The colonies were gone. The stations were abandoned. Whatever had happened there had usually left behind radiation, wreckage, and stories that sensible people avoided. Yet here he was, descending through a violent electromagnetic storm toward a nameless planet orbiting a dying star. The distress beacon had been repeating the same signal for nearly 16 hours. Weak, broken, persistent, Ethan told himself he was only checking for salvage. He told himself that if nobody was alive, there might still be valuable technology worth recovering. Mostly, he told himself whatever helped him ignore the feeling in his stomach. His freighter, the Nomad, shook violently as lightning-like energy streaked across the purple clouds outside. "Easy girl," Ethan muttered, gripping the controls. The scanners finally locked onto the source. A small escape pod, half buried inside a canyon. Ethan sighed. Of course, no salvage, just trouble. 20 minutes later, he landed near the crash site and stepped into the freezing air. The planet was silent, not the peaceful kind of silent. The wrong kind. The kind that made every instinct tell you to leave. The canyon stretched endlessly in both directions. Strange black crystals grew from the rocks like jagged teeth. Ethan activated his helmet lamp and climbed toward the wreckage. The pod was in terrible condition. Its hull had been torn apart during impact. Whoever had been inside should have died. Yet his life scanner detected a heartbeat. Barely. Seriously, Ethan whispered. He forced open the emergency hatch. Then he froze. Inside lay a woman. At least he thought she was a woman. She certainly wasn't human. Her silver skin reflected the light like polished metal. Long white hair spilled around her shoulders. Several deep wounds crossed her arms and chest. But what caught Ethan's attention were her eyes. They were completely white, not damaged, not clouded, just white, blind. She looked fragile, broken, yet somehow there was still something powerful about her presence. As though even unconscious she carried authority. The scanner beeped, heart rate dropping. Ethan cursed under his breath. He had a choice: walk away, or get involved. History suggested that getting involved usually ruined his life. Unfortunately, Ethan Cole had never been very good at leaving people behind. Fine, he sighed. Let's make another terrible decision. He carefully lifted her from the wreckage and carried her back toward the ship. For a moment, her hand weakly grabbed his sleeve. Even unconscious, she seemed desperate not to be left alone. Something about that gesture hit harder than it should have. Maybe because Ethan understood loneliness better than most. Maybe because he recognized it. The next 2 days were difficult. The alien woman drifted in and out of consciousness. Ethan worked constantly to keep her alive. The Nomad wasn't a hospital. Its medical bay was designed for cargo pilots, not critically injured extraterrestrials. Still, he did everything he could. Cleaned wounds, administered medication, monitored her condition. Several times he thought he might lose her. Each time she somehow fought her way back. On the 3rd day, she finally woke properly. Ethan was repairing a coolant regulator when he heard movement behind him. He turned. The woman was sitting upright. Her white eyes stared directly toward him. Which made absolutely no sense. "Easy," Ethan said. "You almost died." She remained silent, listening, studying. Then she spoke. The language was completely unfamiliar. Ethan activated the universal translator attached to his collar. The device processed for several seconds. Finally, her words became understandable. "Where am I?" "On my ship." She tilted her head slightly. "You rescued me." "Looks that way." A long silence followed. "Why?" The question surprised him. "What do you mean why?" "You do not know who I am." "Nope. You do not know what I am." "Also true. Yet you risked your life." Ethan shrugged. "You needed help." The woman remained silent, as though that answer made no sense to her. Finally she spoke again. "You are either very brave, or very foolish." Ethan laughed. People usually say both. To his surprise, she smiled slightly. The first genuine expression he had seen from her. "My name is Aria, Ethan." She nodded. "Thank you, Ethan." Something in her voice sounded sincere. Almost vulnerable. The following days passed quietly. Aria recovered slowly. She remained blind. At first Ethan assumed it was temporary. Eventually he realized she had likely been blind her entire life. Yet somehow she moved through the ship with incredible confidence. As if she could sense everything around her. She never stumbled, never hesitated, never asked for assistance. It was unsettling. One evening they sat together inside the observation lounge. Stars drifted past beyond the glass. "You travel alone?" Aria asked. "Usually." "Why?" Ethan thought for a moment. "No good reason." "That is not true." "No, no." He laughed. "You always this stubborn." "Usually." For some reason that made both of them smile. The conversation continued. For the first time in years, Ethan found himself talking about things he normally avoided. His childhood on Earth, his parents, the cargo routes, the endless loneliness of frontier space. Aria listened carefully, never interrupting, never judging. When he finally finished, she remained quiet. "You miss them?" "My parents?" "Yes." Ethan stared at the stars. "Every day." Aria nodded slowly. "I understand." Something in her voice suggested she truly did. As the days passed, Ethan noticed strange things. Aria avoided discussing her past. Whenever he asked where she came from, she changed the subject. Whenever he asked who attacked her escape pod, she became silent. And despite appearing calm, she constantly seemed worried, as if she expected danger to arrive at any moment. One night Ethan found her standing alone in the cargo bay. "How did you know it was me?" he asked. "You walk heavily." "I do not." "You do." He laughed. "Fair enough." For several moments neither spoke. Then Aria asked quietly, "Are humans always like this?" "Like what kind?" Ethan blinked. "Not always." "Then why are you?" He thought carefully. "I guess somebody helped my family once when they needed it." Aria lowered her head. "A rare philosophy." "Maybe." "No," she said softly. "Definitely rare." 3 days later alarms suddenly erupted throughout the ship. Ethan jumped from his chair. Warning lights flashed red. The sensors were screaming. Unknown vessels detected. Ethan ran toward the cockpit. Then stopped cold. His stomach dropped. Hundreds of ships surrounded the Nomad. Not dozens. Hundreds. Massive warships filled the stars in every direction. Their formation was flawless. Their weapons were active. Every single one appeared locked onto his tiny freighter. "Oh, that's bad. Very bad." The communication panel activated automatically. An authoritative voice echoed through the bridge. "Unidentified human vessel. Power down immediately." Ethan swallowed. "Yep. Definitely bad." He sprinted toward the medical bay. His first thought wasn't about himself. It was about Aria. If these ships wanted her dead, the door opened. And Ethan froze. Aria stood in the center of the room. Completely healed. Gone were the bandages. Gone were the injuries. She wore magnificent silver armor that shimmered with living energy. A glowing crown rested upon her head. For several seconds Ethan simply stared. "What?" Aria turned toward him. For the first time since meeting her, she seemed every bit as powerful as she had always felt. Her voice became calm, regal, confident. "I owe you an apology, Ethan Cole." Ethan blinked. "I have a feeling this is where things get complicated." "Yes," Aria admitted. "It is." The doors opened behind her. Dozens of armored soldiers entered. They immediately knelt. Every single one. Ethan's eyes widened. Then Aria spoke. "My full name is Aria Solari." The room fell silent. "I am heir to the Celestial Dominion." Ethan stared, then laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was ridiculous. "Of course you are." Aria smiled slightly. "You saved my life. And accidentally rescued a princess." "Yes." "Fantastic." A new voice spoke from the doorway. "Actually, she is considerably more important than a princess." Ethan turned. A tall man entered wearing elegant military armor. His smile was warm, friendly, confident. "I am Admiral Ren Vox," the man said. "Commander of the Dominion Fleet." He extended a hand. "You have our eternal gratitude, Ethan Cole." Ethan shook it cautiously. The Admiral's smile widened. "You saved the future ruler of our empire." Before Ethan could answer, another figure appeared. This one was very different. Large, scarred, intimidating. His expression looked permanently angry. Cold eyes studied Ethan carefully. Like a predator examining prey. I do not trust him. The statement was immediate, blunt, awkward. Ethan blinked. Nice to meet you too. The man ignored him. His gaze remained fixed. Humans do not appear in forbidden systems by coincidence. Aria sighed. Captain Darius, I am merely stating facts. You are being rude. I am being cautious. Admiral Wren laughed warmly. Forgive him. He placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Captain Darius suspects everyone. Darius didn't smile. Not even slightly. His eyes never left Ethan. And for reasons Ethan couldn't explain. That made him uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. A few hours later, Ethan boarded the Dominion flagship. A massive vessel unlike anything humanity possessed. As the Nomad was escorted into its hangar, Ethan stood beside Aria overlooking endless stars. So what happens now? He asked. You will come with us to the capital. Do I have a choice? Yes. Really? Yes. Ethan looked surprised. Aria smiled softly. You saved my life. Nothing will be forced upon you. Before Ethan could respond, footsteps approached. Captain Darius stopped beside him. The scarred officer stared silently for several seconds. Then leaned closer. His voice was barely above a whisper. If you value your life, human, his eyes narrowed. Do not trust Admiral Wren Vox. Darius turned and walked away, leaving Ethan standing frozen beside the future ruler of an empire, and suddenly wondering whether rescuing Aria had been the worst mistake of his life. Ethan spent most of the journey to the Celestial Dominion's capital trying to understand Captain Darius's warning. Do not trust Admiral Wren Vox. The problem was simple. Nothing about Wren seemed suspicious. The Admiral was friendly, respectful, and endlessly patient. He answered Ethan's questions, introduced him to officers, explained the Dominion's history. If anything, Wren appeared to be the kindest person Ethan had met in years. Meanwhile, Darius continued acting like a prison guard who expected assassination attempts around every corner. The man rarely smiled, rarely spoke, and somehow managed to make every room colder simply by entering it. Yet Ethan could not ignore the warning. Something about the way Darius had said it felt genuine. Not manipulative, not threatening, concerned, and that made it difficult to dismiss. The capital world of Solara appeared 3 days later. Ethan had seen beautiful planets before. None came close to this. Entire cities floated above oceans of crystal blue water. Massive rings of light encircled the atmosphere. Towering silver structures rose into the clouds like works of art rather than buildings. For several seconds Ethan forgot to breathe. Beside him, Aria smiled. It is beautiful, isn't it? It doesn't even look real. The first settlers said the same thing. As the flagship descended, millions of lights illuminated the world below. The people had gathered to celebrate their princess's return. Crowds filled every platform, every balcony, every sky bridge. The moment Aria appeared, cheers erupted across the city. Ethan had never heard so many voices at once. Yet despite the celebration, he noticed something strange. Darius never relaxed, not once. While everyone else smiled and celebrated, the security chief constantly scanned the crowds. Watching, searching, looking for threats. The following week passed quickly. Official ceremonies, formal dinners, political meetings, events Ethan barely understood. Everywhere he went, people treated him like a hero. The human who had saved the future ruler of the Dominion. The attention made him uncomfortable. Aria seemed to understand. Whenever possible, she escaped the formal gatherings and found reasons to spend time with him. Sometimes they walked through the palace gardens. Sometimes they simply sat together overlooking the floating city. Those moments became Ethan's favorite part of each day. One evening they stood alone beside a fountain glowing with blue light. You miss your ship, Aria said. A little, only a little. Ethan smiled. Okay, a lot. Aria laughed softly. Then why haven't you left? The question caught him off guard. Because he knew the answer. And it had very little to do with politics. Or rewards. Or duty. His eyes met hers. For a moment neither spoke. Then Aria looked away first. We should go back. Her voice sounded quieter than usual. almost nervous, and somehow that made Ethan's heart beat faster. Everything changed 2 days later. The attack happened during a royal banquet. One moment Aria was speaking with diplomats. The next she collapsed. The entire hall erupted into chaos. Guards rushed forward. Guests screamed. Medical teams appeared within seconds. Ethan pushed through the crowd. Aria, she was barely conscious. Blood trickled from her nose. Her breathing was uneven. A physician scanned her body. Then his face turned pale. Neural parasite. The room fell silent. Every person present understood what that meant. The parasite attacked the brain directly. If not treated immediately, death was almost certain. Admiral Wren's expression hardened. Seal the palace. Darius was already shouting orders. No one leaves. Search every entrance, every servant, every guest. The investigation began immediately, and within hours, evidence appeared. Far too much evidence. A palace worker claimed he had seen Darius near the restricted medical storage facility. Security logs showed Darius accessing secured corridors. Most damning of all, investigators discovered a parasite container hidden inside Darius's personal office. The arrest happened that same night. Darius did not resist. He simply stood there as guards placed restraints on his wrists. The entire palace watched in disbelief. Wren looked heartbroken. I trusted you. Darius remained silent. Tell us why, Wren demanded. Still nothing. Finally Darius spoke. His voice was calm. I have served the royal family my entire life. Then why betray them? Darius lowered his head. I cannot answer. The silence that followed felt unbearable. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict seemed obvious. Yet Ethan felt the same uncomfortable feeling growing in his stomach. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The execution was scheduled for 3 days later. Most of the Dominion accepted Darius's guilt immediately. Ethan could not. The pieces didn't fit. Darius was suspicious, paranoid, unpleasant, but disloyal, never. The man practically breathed loyalty. Late that night Ethan entered the palace security archives. Technically he wasn't authorized. Technically he didn't care. He spent hours reviewing reports, surveillance footage, access logs, anything that might explain what happened. Then he found something strange. During the exact period when the parasite had been planted, several cameras had been disabled. Not damaged, disabled. Only someone with the highest security clearance could do that. Someone like Admiral Wren Vox. Ethan frowned. That alone proved nothing, but it bothered him enough to keep digging. Hours later he discovered another irregularity. Darius's private records had been accessed repeatedly over the previous month. By Wren. Again. Not proof, but suspicious. Very suspicious. Then Ethan found something else. A missing person report, one that had quietly disappeared from official records. A woman named Celine Venn. Darius's wife. Officially she had left the capital weeks earlier. Unofficially, nobody had seen her since. Ethan's pulse quickened. The next morning he stole a shuttle. Again. Technically illegal. Again. Following old transport records, Ethan tracked a signal hidden deep within the mountains beyond the capital. The location led him to an abandoned military facility. The building looked deserted, but life signs appeared inside. One, human-sized, weak. Ethan drew his sidearm and entered. Room by room he searched the facility, until he heard a voice. Help. He froze, then followed the sound. At the end of a corridor sat a reinforced cell. Inside was a woman, thin, exhausted, terrified, yet very much alive. The moment she saw him, tears filled her eyes. Please. Ethan broke the lock. Are you Celine Venn? She nodded desperately. Oh, thank the stars. Who did this? Fear immediately appeared on her face. He said he would kill me. Who? The Admiral. Ethan felt ice settle in his stomach. Wren Vox. She nodded. The entire story spilled out. Weeks earlier she had been kidnapped. Used to blackmail Darius. Wren forced him to obey impossible orders. Sabotage missions. False reports. Silence. Every action had one purpose. Protect Celine. And when Darius tried resisting, Wren threatened to execute her. The parasite attack, the planted evidence, everything had been orchestrated by the Admiral. Everything. Ethan finally understood. Darius had accepted execution because he believed resistance would get his wife killed. The loyal guardian had willingly sacrificed himself to save the woman he loved. They raced back toward the capital. The execution ceremony had already begun. Thousands filled the central plaza. Millions watched through broadcasts across the Dominion. Darius stood on the execution platform. Chains bound his wrists. His face remained expressionless. Above him sat Aria, still recovering, still weak. Beside her stood Admiral Ren Vox, the beloved military hero, the trusted protector, the traitor. Ethan landed the shuttle directly in the plaza. Security alarms exploded everywhere. Crowds gasped. Guards rushed forward. Ethan jumped from the shuttle. Celine beside him, "Stop the execution." His voice echoed across the plaza. Every eye turned toward him. Ren's expression changed instantly. Just for a second. Long enough. Fear. Then it vanished. "What is the meaning of this?" Ren demanded. Ethan pointed toward Celine. "This is Darius's wife." The crowd erupted. Darius's eyes widened for the first time. Celine. Tears appeared in her eyes. "I'm sorry." Ren immediately stepped forward. "This is absurd." "No," Ethan replied. "It isn't." He activated the evidence files he had copied. Massive holographic screens appeared above the plaza. Access logs, surveillance records, communication files, everything. The evidence unfolded piece by piece. And with every revelation the crowd grew quieter. More shocked, more horrified. Finally Ethan showed the kidnapping records. The blackmail communications. Ren's direct involvement. The plaza became silent. Complete silence. Aria slowly stood. Her blind eyes turned toward Ren. "Is it true?" For the first time, Ren had no answer. No smile. No excuse. Nothing. That silence told everyone everything. The Admiral snapped. His pleasant mask disappeared. Years of resentment exploded outward. "I should have been ruler." His voice thundered across the plaza. "I built this empire. I won its wars. I protected its borders. And yet everything belonged to her." He pointed at Aria. "Because of blood." The crowd recoiled. Guards raised weapons. Ren laughed bitterly. "I was always the better choice." "No," Darius said quietly. Everyone turned. The former prisoner stepped forward. "You were simply the most selfish." For the first time, Ren looked defeated. Not angry. Not powerful. Small. A man destroyed by his own ambition. Security forces surrounded him. This time he offered no resistance. Several days later peace finally returned. Ren awaited trial. Darius was fully exonerated. Celine was reunited with her husband. And the Dominion slowly began healing. Ethan stood alone in the palace gardens preparing to leave. His ship had been repaired. The nomad was ready. Part of him knew he should go. This wasn't his world. These weren't his people. Yet the thought felt strangely painful. Footsteps approached. Aria. She stopped beside him. "You are leaving." It wasn't a question. "No." She looked surprised. "No." Ethan smiled. "For years I thought freedom meant being alone." Aria remained silent, listening, waiting. "But I think I finally figured out I was wrong." A small smile touched her lips. "And what does freedom mean now?" Ethan looked directly at her. "Choosing where I belong." For several seconds neither spoke. Then Aria reached for his hand. And this time neither let go. Far above them, the stars shined over a peaceful empire. An empire saved not by armies, not by power, but by one stubborn human mechanic who refused to ignore a distress signal. And for the first time in many years, Ethan Cole finally had a place to call home. The end.
Thanks for watching. If you love epic sci-fi stories and unforgettable adventures, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to HYF Sci-Fi. Join our growing community, and we'll see you in the next journey beyond the stars.